So I had my spirits destroyed. I was this close to getting the original Keychron Q1 a few weeks ago, but as soon as I had talked myself up into spending nearly $200 on a keyboard is about the time that it had sold out. But there's a silver lining here. Upon visiting a site, I saw a new link for an unreleased product on a countdown timer that happened to have a sought-after piece of equipment on it. A knob. Let's get into it. Been a long time since I've done that. What's up social media, my name's Dre Williams and today I'm here to give a quick look at the Keychron Q1 mechanical keyboard, except this one has a knob, a rotary encoder knob. I specifically picked up the fully assembled Keychron G Pro Brown switch model and I was going to get the case in navy blue, but considering I'm trying to get some gray color coordination going, I actually ended up picking up the space gray model. It looks pretty clean, I'm happy with it. Maybe at some point I might consider getting a new keycap set, but that'll be a future Dre decision. By the way, if anybody knows a cool place to get some custom keycaps for the Q1, feel free to let me know. The stock keycaps aren't bad per se, but I think I can do better here. So with that being said, let's roll the unboxing. So as an overview, the case is made of aluminum, the board is hot swappable, double shot ABS keycaps so there's no light shine through, a double gasket design, and south facing RGB backlights. Out of the box when testing on Mac and Windows, the knob works great. It has a smooth but clicky glide to it. Turning it counterclockwise will decrease the volume and clockwise will increase the volume. Clicking it down will mute any media. I'm still curious about any interesting macros I can set the knob up to execute, and we'll probably end up looking into that later. But wait, I ran into some problems. Take a look. I press B, let's see what happens. So what seemed to happen there is when I was testing it using the B key, a bunch of random special characters were coming up. So when I brought up the software that you use to remap the keys, I could see that a whole bunch of different letters were being pressed every time I used the B key. After that, I ended up pulling off the V key and the B key just to compare with one that works and one that wasn't. And I noticed that one of the pins on the switch for the B key actually was bent down and not going into the slot like it should. After straightening it out, it seemed to fix the problem when I went back to the mapping software, so I guess crisis averted there. Also, I noticed the mission control and launchpad keys don't seem to work on my MacBook Pro. Granted, it is from mid-2012 and currently running the old OS High Sierra, so maybe that explains it. I guess I'll just have to verify when I plug it into like a newer Mac or something. Now these problems aren't deal breakers per se. Overall the keyboard still seems solid, but for me this is the equivalent of if you were to buy a pair of new Jordan 1s and out of the box you have to replace a broken lace aglet or something. It's not impossible, but you shouldn't have to do that when you drop 2 bills. Do better, Keychron. What I will say though is just make sure you pay attention to all the little details you can pick up from Keychron on the product page or the instruction booklet. This is still a very new product, and forums will tell you little tweaks you have to make to get things to work. I had solid red backlights on mine until I realized you can just change them with the keys. But am I stupid? Probably. In comparison to the original Q1, Keychron has listed these 10 points about the knob version, so let's go through them rapid fire. An added knob. Knob version uses the Keychron G Pro switches instead of the Keychron Phantom switches. I like this change since aesthetically speaking, that means that the color of the backlight is not going to be tinted the color of the casing for the switch, so I guess good job on that. Double gasket design with extra silicone gaskets installed between the top and bottom cases for an improved sound profile. A brand new ultra low power ARM Cortex M4 32-bit STM32L432L432 MCU, which is powerful and armed with 128K flash, which will provide more flexibility for developers. Slightly thicker bottom case to make the Q1 heavier, sturdier, and has much less ping noise. This is by far the heaviest keyboard I've ever held, so that's facts. Steel plate instead of an aluminum plate, making the board heavier and sturdier. The top case has sharper corners to make it much more compatible with third-party keycaps. Abandoned the coiled aviator cable to save some costs. I was looking forward to that cable, so that kind of sucks. I mean, once you spend over $200, it's not really much to spend an extra $10 or something for the cable, so. New screw-in PCB stabilizer. $10 USD more in price than the normal knobless version, so probably like $50 more in Canadian. Now, even though I've been down my fair share of YouTube keyboard rabbit holes, I'm no pro at mechanical keyboards, so I'm not going to pretend I can actually review most of the details I just listed. But what I can do is give an honest comparison to a keyboard that I've been using for more than a year now, the Keychron K2. This has been my workhorse over the pandemic, but it has most certainly met its match here, albeit for a much more expensive price. So if I was to compare these guys just off of design, I probably would say I like the Q1 better. I mean, it looks cleaner and it's just a much more quality build to it. I'd say when the feet on the K2 are stood up, they have you using a similar wrist position to type on these. I've never really had problems with typing and needing a wrist rest. I usually kind of rest my forearms on the table and type, so that kind of lets me hover over the keys. But I will say that when the feet are up, and just based on the normal incline with the Q1, I do think that the Q1 has like a better wrist position to it. It seems a little bit more comfortable. I think at the bottom it goes lower than the K2 does, just based on thickness. In terms of backlight options, they both have a fair share of patterns that they can run through. The K2 does have this one where when you press a key, the illumination stops on that single key, and I actually do prefer that. That's probably one of my favorite illumination patterns, and I didn't find that one on the Q1. But based on the fact that there's south-facing RGB on the Q1, I feel like that's why the light pattern doesn't have that, because usually you'd have to rely on shining through the letter to actually show that it's not illuminating anymore. Plus the keycaps aren't shine through, so I don't really care as much. I ended up using a different pattern on mine anyways. And sound-wise, which is basically one of the main reasons that you'd end up even getting the Q1 or a keyboard of this quality, is way better on the Q1 than it is to the K2. But of course I had to do a sound test just to prove to you that it actually sounds that way, so listen into a little bit of keyboard ASMR. With all that being said, I'm sure you can probably find much better deals on a keyboard for the price, or maybe even just build your own if you have the keyboard building know-how. But I stuck with Keychron here due to the Apple specific keycaps and just going with a brand and fully assembled package that I trust. Hopefully in the long run that will serve me well. Value is what you make of it, right? For those of you who type a lot and have never tried typing on a mechanical keyboard, I highly recommend it. At first I didn't get it either, and I've basically used computers all my life, but now that I've made the switch, it is just an addicting experience, and it oddly makes you feel more productive, like the words you're typing are more relevant or something. I don't know, it could just be me bugging out or something. Hope you enjoyed this quick look at the Keychron Q1 Knob Edition. If you enjoyed it, drop me a like, take a look at those non-existent dislikes, or feel free to drop a comment below. As for now, this has been Dre Williams, and remember... breathe manually. Blah, 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 blah. Testing. Gotta keep readjusting myself out of these goddamn shots. I specifically picked up the fully assembled Gateron G Pro Brown Switch. Oh, that was right. The Gateron G Pro Brown Switch. I'm back in my bag. My eyes bloodshot, but my jet don't lag. I don't even know if that's the lyrics, to be honest, but